Oh, look. It's Friday on TrueHoop's it is a little show. I'll bring it in. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's Fridays with Jarod. There's Jarod. There's David Thorpe. Judy's kind of here. How's everybody doing?
Good. Better than you, I think.
Happy. What are you talking about, Jarod?
Nothing.
Good. Me neither. Definitely not a little hungover today. So this is exciting. We like the 9x90. There's the clock is ready.
Mm-hmm.
At your leisure, sir.
So, Tom Brady is a relatively popular human being in the face of the world. And apparently he doesn't realize that we're in a pandemic and he's not in a state that is a hotbed for coronavirus that literally, 1 in 3 kids in Florida are testing positive, and the rates just keep climbing every day. Here he is going into it to get tested, no mask. And look at him now. He's going to try to, hold on, Doc, let me put my mask on around my, it's like, what are you doing, bro? Like, you're just around all these people, not wearing your mask. And again, as we all know, look, hanging off the side of his face. Like, the mask isn't about you, like, saving yourself. It's about the people around you. Now, I'm sure he's got some TB12 method in his brain about how, because of the nightshades he doesn't eat, he's probably fine, doesn't get coronavirus. But come on, dude. Like, you are a visible human being in a popular sport in a state that is having a major problem. Like, you need to do better with that stuff. Like, whether or not you think it's right or wrong at this point, how are you even thinking that? There's no right or wrong. Mask is smart. No mask, stupid. Tom Brady, do better. Wear a mask. I yield my time.
And he lives near me. Well, not that close, but within 30 minutes, I'd say.
Florida man.
So last night, now he is. So last night, Dr. Fauci, who we all know who that is, threw out the first pitch for the game. But I want you watch this. Everyone's making fun of his pitch, but look how fast he's walking. So everyone is all bent out of shape that he can't throw it over home plate. He's almost 80 years old. I limp out of my bed every day when I get up in the morning for a few minutes. Yes, the pitch.
Oh no, though that's terrible.
He's like, what do you want?
Yeah, they just saw the pitch being thrown. But to me, it's the speed at which he got to the mound. This guy's almost 80 years old. It just reminds me, and he's getting killed on Twitter or whatever. And of course, there's somehow politics involved with what he's been saying. But where is our decency as human beings where we can't even recognize the fact that this man who's still working around the clock and on TV all the time trying to save lives, and he's thinking and he's talking and he's walking fast to the mound and throwing the first pitch. Who cares whether he got over home plate? I mean, to me, it's a sad state of where we are that we can't even recognize that we're lucky to have it. And by the way, COVID's killing old people all the time. As we know, it's more than anyone else. We need to be better. As people, we need to be better.
I want to talk about Giannis. Everybody's making the case, including you two, I believe, that Giannis should be the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year.
Sure.
Zach Lowe makes a great argument here. I agree with practically everything he's saying. But look at this. Look at this list right here, actually. Giannis number 1, LeBron number 2. James Harden and Damian Lillard are not outstanding defenders. It's a little weird. In fact, Lillard's like a negative defender. So we're saying he's the 4th best player in the whole league, even though in half of the game, he's below average. So this makes me think this is a little weird. It feels like because there's a separate Defensive Player of the Year award, that what we're kind of saying is what we kind of think and have been acting this way for years is that the MVP is an offensive award. Right? And that's a little strange because the game is not half offense. It's just half of what we notice and care about. So to me, I wonder if maybe Thorpe's been right all these years that we should have a most outstanding offensive player award as well, because it'll free our brains. Then we get to give Harden an award. We get to, these things that we want to reward, we get to reward. And then we can free Giannis. And we don't really mean, I don't think that Giannis is just like the only elite player in the NBA, way better at everything than everyone. But this year, it happens that the MVP is a great defender, so he has to get them both. And then it looks like there's only one good player.
Well, I'll take those 6 seconds. It's amazing. He's the best offensive defensive player, and LeBron is the 2nd best offensive and defensive player.
Yeah,
pretty astounding that forget about 17 years. Just that fact is pretty amazing. All right, Jarod.
So it is Friday, so we can't have a Friday without a return of, once again, the #1 band in the history of the world, the Capitalist Machine. They play nothing but hits. One of their #1 hits is keeping NCAA athletes broke. And so the NCAA, who, as everyone knows, they violate antitrust laws all the time, right? And they now want an antitrust exemption to continue to restrict athletes, right, who they make billions of dollars off of, right? And it's simple. This whole name, image, and likeness thing that they're like, yeah, we're doing it. Guys, they're not doing it. They're full of shit. They're doing all these committees, and they're finding all these loopholes and reasons to not allow you. Okay, you can get this, but only if you meet these 8 million conditions. That's not a free enterprise and a free market. That's an enterprise with collusion. And the people who are colluding are the NCAA and its member institutions. Give these athletes their full economic rights, and you have no antitrust problem. That's just how this goes. It's not that all the schools have to pay. It's simply stop letting the schools work together with each other to agree that we're not paying these guys. But the cat's out of the bag now with no football, and that's probably going to happen for a lot of places. We're seeing all this right now, and it's going to be a pretty stark reality when we realize that, oh, wait, these guys need and should have been paid a long time ago. Hopefully, it'll happen.
LeBron gets interviewed last night. Judy's going to play something after his scrimmage. We'll listen.
The NBA and us as the players, me as one of the leaders of this league, I want her family to know, and I want the state of Kentucky to know that we feel for it and we want justice. And, that's what it's all about. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And this is a wrong situation that's going on in my eyes and it's in a lot of other eyes, not only here in America, but I bet in the world as well.
Tanya.
So I want to give a shout out to Jarod because he intelligently talked about this weeks ago, maybe months ago. It's been a long pandemic where he was worried that if we started playing games, we'd forget about the things happening in the world. And I don't think that I disagreed with you, Jarod. I don't think I just thought about it very much. And I wasn't too worried about it. And you're totally right. I was watching LeBron play yesterday, the Lakers, who played as if the scrimmage counted for something important. The first quarter, LeBron was flying. AD took a charge. I write about the Lakers some today. And without question, I did kind of forget about everything that's happening, and he brings it right back. And I hope journalists as well as the players and the staff continue to talk about the most important issues affecting the world today. We need them to do that when they're done playing each day.
Well said.
So the players have been leaving the bubble a little bit. And yesterday there was this report that the rules of reentry have changed. I don't know if it's a good protocol or not, but I know that it's a choice that the NBA made that actually none of these policies are published. It's very strange to me. Why isn't this an NBA official on the microphone explaining, hey, here's our new protocol, right? Why would the rules not be public? Like, I can guess as to why. I can speculate.
Please do.
What's that?
Please do.
Okay, so, well, if they have rules that get somebody sick, then they could conceivably be sued for rules that got somebody sick. But if the rules are never known, they can't be sued for those rules. This is my guess, right? So everything's leaked. I've talked to the NBA about this, and they're basically like, oh, yeah, no, you can use that version that you got leaked to you, right? So they're kind of acknowledging they are, but they noted to me that they have reserved the right to amend them or change them. So it's just this is a pandemic. We're trying to save lives with these rules, and no one knows the fucking rules. To me, like, it's really slippery and strange to me. And the fact that now we get a leak to Shams about like, oh yeah, no, you can go back at this, that, blah, blah. Like they're taking a lot of health decisions and putting them in the back room. And I would not be comfortable with that if I were a player. That's all I got.
Well, something you said to me, Henry, is that this idea of lawyers making all the rules in the NBA, that's a telling sign right there. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one of my favorite people in Congress, AOC. Let the video run.
The two most common reasons people go to see plastic surgeons are undoubtedly wrinkles and laxity.
Plastic surgery.
Laxity?
I don't even know
Judy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Let me set it up again.
Okay, no
We
problem.
can, and we'll set the clock too.
Yeah. Hold on.
You're doing fine, Judy.
Yeah.
You push one button the wrong way, and here you go.
All hell
I think
breaks
she got
loose.
hacked.
She got hacked.
It's well worth people's time to listen to her if they haven't already. I posted about her this morning on Facebook.
Yeah, I enjoy her quite. Like she's one of the good ones.
Okay.
We all set? There we go.
Dehumanizing language is not new. And what we are seeing is that incidents like these are happening in a pattern. This is a pattern of an attitude towards women and dehumanization of others. So while I was not deeply hurt or offended by little comments that are made, when I was reflecting on this, I honestly thought that I was just going to pack it up and go home. It's just another day, right?
So that, of course, is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York's 14th Congressional District. She was accosted on the steps of the Capitol building by Representative Ted Yoho and Representative Roger Williams, who, among other things, called her a fucking bitch and some other choice language and words, right? And he offered some kind of apology, which wasn't an apology. I have a daughter and a wife, blah, blah, whatever. And I encourage everyone to read that, watch that entire 9-minute speech that she gave on the congressional floor, or I'm sorry, in the House. And it's about language and its importance. The constant otherness and belittling of others is so much of why we are why we're here, right? We all need to do better with how we speak. Language is so important. It is the bedrock of any functioning civilized society. And when you cannot speak to people who you have disagreements with in any kind of coherent and civilized and polite way, this is what we see every day. This is what we have.
Trumpism.
Yeah.
I just lump it all under Trumpism. Just to follow up on that, there's two things. One is I've worked very hard at eliminating the B word from my vocabulary. There's the N word and the B word. I don't say it. On occasion, I mess up because I'm an old man and was set my ways, and I always catch it right away and correct it. It's just not a word that needs to exist anymore, unless you're talking about a female dog in that context, literally. The other thing is, and I may have mentioned this on the show before, when you think of Annie Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption, crawling through the quote-unquote a river of shit to get salvation, that is what women of color in this country have had to go through to make it. And those of us that have been lucky enough to experience lots of people like them, it's hard to understand just how bad that river is and how much they've had to get through. And so I don't know that I agree with all of AOC's political philosophies. I don't know them all. I hold her in the highest regard because her people around her clearly believe in her. She's accomplished a ton. And who do I agree with? Everyone politically all the way. That's not the way the game's supposed to be played. She is to be respected, admired. I hope she's in our lives for a long time to come. And I hope most importantly, she inspires thousands of other women who look like her or close to her to seek whatever they want to seek unfettered. And that's on people like us to make sure we remove those obstacles from their path.
Well said, Coach.
I wanted to make all three of mine about Giannis, but I lost the plot for a second. So we're back on Giannis now. We're going to watch this cute little video here. There we go.
Of surviving. So I don't think he had the luxury to think. He was just, I think, in a constant struggle for surviving. And surviving meant not to be caught.
My parents were illegal. We couldn't get an ID or a Greek passport. So, being illegal in Greece, you can, at any moment you get deported. Whatever my parents did, they were really, really careful. Being illegal limits you as a person. Like, you don't want to walk in the street because the police at any moment they can stop you. Let's say you're back and you're going to not see your kids again. If I was back home, I came back from school and, my mom was late. In my head,
okay, now I'm going straight to Joe Vardon from The Athletic Last week, the Bucks held a scrimmage at Disney. There was a ball headed out of bounds, and Giannis dove for it with outstretched arms, saving it to Kyle Korver as he crashed to the court. Korver drained a three, and multiple sources said the energy in the room shot through the roof. Trash talking between the players, all of them Bucks rocketed. Coaches went from standing with arms folded to hands on their knees. Afterward, Bucks deep thinkers held a conference call. And one observer declared the intensity and competitiveness of the game was equal to any first-round playoff game from 2019. And the point, from the Bucks' view, is Giannis cares so much, plays so hard, and sets the tone like this, even in practice. And I know we're out of time. Well, I guess we're done with nominating. But to me, this is like, this spirit is born there, right? Like, Giannis was born in a system and raised in a system where, well, I forget what his coach said in the beginning, something like constant, every day, all day struggle. It would break most people, right? It's not reasonable. But somehow he emerged from this as, I always feel like the toughest people in the world are the ones who are smiling. They're carrying the burden that others are like, really, and he's like, no, I'm so much tougher that I can like flex and laugh through this thing.
And the important point to bring there too, Henry, is what Giannis talked about, which is it's the threat of deportation, right? If you're there illegally. So when everybody loves to be like, Giannis is Greek, not according to the Greek government and Greek police, right. He wasn't. Giannis is Nigerian and black. Newsflash, people. This happens all over the world. Keep that in mind.
Right. So we have like Giannis is here in this country right now, right? I'm sure Greece wished they would have given him a little bit of decency when he was 4.
Did he have to scrounge for food in trash cans?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's brothers in that video. We should all watch the longer version of this video. But his brother's like, yeah, we just walked around the streets selling, like, they're selling whatever they could sell in the streets, right?
Who does he? I don't know this. Who does he play for the national team?
He does play for Greece for the national team.
I wish he wouldn't.
I wish he wouldn't.
Yeah, Nigeria would be pretty darn good.
Yeah, he plays for Greece.
First of all, there's no rules. He could play for anyone. Like there's the international. Don't even get me started on international basketball. They make up whatever they want to make up. It's really extraordinary though how silly those things are. When you see Russia's team came from Compton and Chicago, and Israel too. It's pretty whatever.
Yeah, Henry, we're not gonna step on David's story that's coming out later, but we have to share with the group coaches' rules. We talked about this on a pre-show. Basketball starting. Nobody bother me with anything stupid or any silly questions. So, of course, in the group chat, I go, Coach, Bol Bol, I'm really excited. What do you think? And this is so that's what I texted it, Coach. And then he goes, oh, Simon Cowell, why is this guy bothering me?
I do get a lot of those. I'm happy to get yours, Jarod. And I noticed. I mean, Bol Bol is. I talked to Henry about him yesterday for a while. There's a lot to like about that young man, and I can only imagine how proud his dad would be. I was a huge fan of his dad. I worry about him, which I think a lot of other teams did too. That's why I didn't draft him in the first round. But 7'8" wingspan. I write about him today. I can't get my arms around. Well, no pun intended. Really? Can't get my arms around that. 7'8" wingspan. When you dribble the ball, the reason why little guys tend to dribble better is because they're much closer to the ground. So the ball, think about it, the ball is loose, literally loose. The millisecond it leaves your finger pad. That's what we teach our guys. That's why we ask them to hammer it as if you're hammering a nail on the ground. So it's back in your hand right away. When you're 7'2", that's a lot of looseness to the dribble, right? And he's like KD and those guys. He's not as athletic as someone like KD would be laterally. So I think defensively he's got some issues, but he's got game. I mean, guy had a double-double in a scrimmage and 6 block shots. And has barely played. And you said, Jarod, before the show, he has no idea what he's doing. It's true. No 18-year-old, 19-year-old does. But if you're Denver and you got him and Michael Porter Jr., not to mention Nikola Kristaps Porzingis Jokic on your team, and Jamal Murray, they've got some exciting things to look forward to.
I'll tell you something else. There have been 100 very tall, skinny guys that sneak into the NBA in the end of the first round, beginning of the second round through the years, and most of them don't make it. But if you can shoot threes, like, he can really shoot. Thank goodness that they taught him. Thank goodness the game has changed so that he's been raised to shoot, right? And he's not just supposed to stand there and block shots because he wouldn't help his team enough, right? He wouldn't, like, if he were just playing like, I don't know if anybody remembers. If anybody can remember this guy, Lester Fonville. But Lester Fonville was like, I was so excited because of all the measurements. There was like, oh, he's just no one's gonna score on Lester Fonville. The Blazers drafted in the second round in the 80s, and but he couldn't play basketball. You know, he doesn't have any skills. He's just huge, right? And they come every year in the draft. There are these guys, but now it's like, no, shoot threes, everybody. Like, you got a real shot to play.
Caleb dropped a great name in there. He's holding out hope for Barry Jones III. I will say this. I know he's got some injury things. I think it was because he got drafted by Oklahoma City. He scored 30, I think, in a preseason game, and I was like, oh man, him and KD and Russ and Hart, that team's gonna be so good. Yeah, it didn't quite work out for.
I have a great Perry Jones story actually. When you're old like me, you have stories about almost every player. I had heard about this guy. He was a projected lottery pick to start his season at Baylor, and I was at Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza with my family, and there's a little TV in the corner. It was like a Friday night, Saturday night, whatever. And I had not seen him play ever. I just heard he was this incredibly athletic guy. And Baylor's on. I'm like, oh, I'll eat dinner with who I'm meeting with, and I'll pay attention. And there's this really athletic dude who's flying all over the place, making a million plays. And I thought, well, now I get why he's a top 5 pick. Turns out he was a student that I worked with named Quincy Acey, who's playing in Israel right now, but lasted a long time. I didn't notice Perry Jones at all. So it doesn't matter if you've got all these talents on paper. You actually have to do them in games. And so that's to Henry's point. You can't just – they call it the all-airport team for a reason. You've got to have some skill. You have to have something. Bol Bol does. He is skilled. He can shoot it. He can handle it. I've had people texting me, Henry, about his shooting. Like, they say, Coach, he can really shoot. I haven't seen evidence of it yet, but it looks good when I watch it. And, yeah, you have a hard time contesting 7'2" to 7'8" wingspan firing up threes. That is interesting. Denver's done well.
David, do you think, like, so he was one of those players, Perry was, who was just a giant recruiting scandal, like whatever the whispers were. He was the eye of that storm. There were so many. I mean, I just off the top of my head, someone reminded me yesterday about Scal Labissiere. It was like, Scal was like,
I love Scal.
There was a giant, he was just like, this was the most corrupt looking thing ever, right? And on and on. That hurts their game, I guess, right? Do you think? Like, just being in the middle of these, whatever the hell happens. I think
it's actually it's an amazing point you bring up. I think the most important thing to deal with players, this goes to Jarod's article the other day about player development, is honesty, which is one reason why it's a problem that you're really not playing any games, because it's easier to lie to them when they don't have any stats to show that they suck. And it's okay to stink. But if you don't know it, how are you going to get better? So I think, Henry, part of those scandals is just you're not getting the truth about anything. In Scal's case, I still think he's very talented. I loved him in Summer League, 4 years ago in a game from Kentucky. But absent real consequences to what you're doing and the truth, if you can't really see the consequences, you're not going to get better. You have to know you've got to get better. Those are reference points. Those mistakes, those failures are reference points to literally color the curriculum of your next day of practice and beyond. And if you're not experiencing that, how do you know? I mean, especially when people are treating you like, you're a king.
I think about like Kevin Martin at that age was no drama, right? So he gets to go to the gym and work on his shot and become Kevin Martin, right? And whereas Perry Jones is, I wonder what his days were like. There's probably all kinds of freaked out adults around you, stressed about this meeting or that restaurant, whatever, it's not as.
And everyone's trying to get in your pocket.
Yeah.
Even though there's nothing in your pocket.
Right.
So you have this inflated sense of, oh, man, I'm so good that they're trying to get in pockets that are empty but lint right now. And that is the worst. That's why I hate you'll never see one of we help a lot of players here locally. You won't see them tweeting, blessed to get an offer from here, and we don't play that game. When they decide, we still haven't announced where my son's going to school. And he's actually enrolled in the school right now, taking classes. I
know where he's going.
Yes,
I know.
A few people know. So we will all know soon enough. But I don't like that. The sense of importance that young people have. And I'm all for royal jelly, as you guys know. But that is just made up hooey. And it hurts our young people when they think it's a game about how many offers do I get. That is not the game. The game is to find the one place that can help you get to wherever you want to be as a man, as an athlete, as a student, whatever. It's not about collecting offers and blessed. It's fool's gold. I don't like ESPN at all for the way they rank these players and celebrate every offer they get. It's hurting our players. The truth is there's still going to be 30 guys drafted in the NBA draft first round. There's still going to be 32 NFL players drafted in the first round. And so that's how they get away with it. They throw a bunch of stuff on the wall and a few things stick, but everyone else is dripping off it. And no one's paying attention to what happens to them. None of us know where Perry Jones is now. That guy was a can't-miss talent. I don't know where he is and haven't thought of him for years. And that's the point.
I hope somebody knows where Perry is.
Someone.
I'll ask Quincy. I text all the time.
It is that point though, Coach. And I don't remember what year it started, but when ESPN and other networks started televising the high school kids announcing where they're going to college, and they set up all the hats in front of the helmets if it was football, and like it just turned into this thing. And it's like, guys, like you haven't even made it yet. Like It's not right. Like you might, maybe, like one step along the way.
Right. Henry knows the Shane Battier story. I quote it every year that I've worked with draftable players. Shane was asked what he was going to get with his first car. I think he was drafted number 6 after being College Player of the Year at Duke, winning a national championship. And I don't remember what he said he was going to buy, but he said, I know this. It's not going to be the nicest car I'm ever going to get. And so I don't want to buy a Bentley, basically, because where am I going from there? I have no idea if my contract's going to go beyond 4 years. And I've always advised my players exactly that. Don't spend all your money buying a depreciating asset because it might be the last big money contract you ever get for lots of reasons. It's the same thing here. You shouldn't be – your highlight of your career shouldn't be appearing at ESPN announcing where you're intending to go to school. That should just be the beginning, a quiet beginning.
You could like play it on a loop. I say this all the time, and I sort of apologize for it, but it's a relationship versus a transaction, right? Like you're hoping that your son and this program will have a life-defining marriage,
right?
That will protect them from coronavirus, among other things.
Exactly
you want them to really love each other like a marriage, right? And this speed dating thing of the social media actually, honestly, reminds me of. I mean, I had to have people explain it to me because I'm out of the loop and old. But you know, when a player tweets says like, "Hey, Chicago, what's good?" as in Chicago. What they're getting is DMs of like women in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Like this is how the hook, like that's not a relationship. That's a transaction, right? Like it's exactly the same college thing that you're talking about, right? It's the same. Right. Yeah. Like, I'm not judging it as like a, you know, do what you want, free country. But what I am saying is like, I don't think you're likely to be as happy long-term if you're putting a lot of time into these transactional things.
It's exploitive to kids. And to your point about the choice my son made, he literally used the words, I'm making a 40-year decision. And when you talk about coronavirus, we had that conversation this week with the coaching staff. Yeah. Like, here's what the plan is. They're on it. If they weren't on it, we wouldn't be so excited. He can do what he wants to do, but we wouldn't be as excited. We want our kids protected, and we want them to help grow into young men. From the case of my son. My daughter's on her own. She's not playing on a team. So it's going to be herself and her surroundings. But colleges are a part of that.
Caleb says, man, I apparently had a far different college experience than Henry. Caleb, I want to be clear. I'm not speaking from experience. This is just shit I learned from books.
It is connecting to what we see right now with it seems like every Trump and Trump fan, every Trump fan is sending our kids to school. You got to go to school. You make a decision for your own kids.
Yeah. Who, by the way, are not doing it. They're all distance learning, right? So
right. Like, what are you talking about? That we care that little about kids and their teachers, by the way.
Right.
And the maintenance staff and everything else.
This is something interesting. I'd love your take on back to basketball. So Bo brought up an interesting point, Bomani Jones, on his pod yesterday. He was talking to Vinny Goodwill, and they talked about this idea that without crowds, and we play these scrimmage games, and then we win the NBA championship, young guys may have a chance to play more of an impact in deciding who wins a championship, because you don't have that stage fright pressure of, I'm in an arena, there's 20,000 people screaming at me, it's the NBA finals, whatever. I mean, yeah, people are looking at you, but they're all on the internet. The arena is like a pro-am. There's like nobody there. It's just so. Any thoughts about that and the idea of not having stage fright because there's literally no crowd?
Oh, I have some thoughts for sure. I'm helping a player right now in this bubble, and he's going to have to guard in 3 straight days Kawhi and Paul George and LeBron and AD.
Simple. Piece of cake.
Easy.
It doesn't fucking matter who's watching. Like, he's never done that before. He's 26 years old. And I've been around long enough to have – I told him this on the phone yesterday. Dirk and Kobe and Pau Gasol in the NBA Finals and on and on and on. And, like, it's so hard. These players are so good. And then as Bomani's talking about, and Jarod, what you're saying with the postseason pressure too, Like, imagine being Danny Green, who's won championships and everything else. Imagine the glare he's going to get from LeBron if he fucks up late in the game. Like, the Lakers played yesterday like they're trying to win a ring yesterday in a scrimmage. There's so much internal peer pressure for these guys. And the talent they're playing against are so elite level. I don't think they're wrong that it's one less stress to deal with, but there's enough stresses. It's like, who cares if it's 4 degrees or 5 degrees outside? It's fucking cold. Like, it's not really going to matter that much. And playing time is a factor too for these young guys. And that's what I said to Henry yesterday about Bol Bol. I'm excited about the jumbo lineup the Nuggets played, but I'm not convinced at all that Mike Malone will trot out Bol Bol in an NBA postseason. He's barely played. He can still go big. There's with Jokic at 1, which he did yesterday, 2 days ago. But it's a hard league, man. It's a hard. The postseason's tough. I don't know how many coaches have the confidence, young guys, whether they're fans or not. It'll be a different experience for sure.
You know who it's going to affect? I say this based on research. Is the referees? So soccer referees in England.
It's a great point.
There's this great study. Like the bigger the crowd, the longer they let the penalty time goes for the home team to try to make an equalizer. Right? Like there's no way the crowd is in the ref's head. But now I think it's going to. I predict you'll have like irate LeBron a lot because LeBron's used to getting the crowd effect on the ref. Like his home crowd's going to get him calls. And actually that same article, that Joe Varden story I was reading from earlier, had a lot of LeBron being like, that's an and one. Like really, you can hear it now. But I think it'll be, I don't know. We'll see. It could be a little shocking to superstars, I would guess.
Do you guys know when they're going to have families allowed? Is it starting the Final Four maybe?
I think it's conference finals, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was after the first round of the playoffs. They I think first round and then family can come.
So Henry's never had the experience, maybe you have, Jarod, of being at an AAU championship. I've been in more than a few with families. And, it's a scene, man. And I'm just telling you, 99%, everyone, all the American players anyway, I can't speak for the Europeans because it's different there. They're going to feel like they're back on a long Sunday. They played 7 games in 2 days. And the only people yelling are mom. Mom and sister. And they get it. I mean, I've sat with families at games at the NBA level, and it's just like AAU. They're screaming. They're also happy and cheering. I think it's going to be amazing TV. There'll be 16 people, 18 to 24 per side, and they'll be vocal as hell. I hope we don't drown them out with other sounds.
I hope not.
Funny.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing I'm watching for is the NBA like, oh my gosh, we're too black. Like the NBA has moderated blackness in its broadcast since Michael Jordan had to take his necklace off, right? Like this live. I've been in these conversations where like, do you want to hear players in game? And the code here is like, do we want to hear what Caleb was talking about? I gotta get the fuck out, which Melo said clearly yesterday.
So that was hilarious. That's so classic. Well, we hear Melo say that even when it's like 1 million people in the arena, but it was so audible. Got the remote, fuck out of here. I was like, oh, Melo's back.
It would have been fun to hear KG because I've heard KG when the games didn't matter at all practice. Like he's that intensity. There wasn't much intensity the last 2 days. I write about that a little bit, but to be expected. And the games really, except for the Lakers, the game didn't count.
Didn't they say these were going to be on delay? Wasn't that the story?
What's going to be on delay?
The whole broadcast.
Doesn't sound like it to me.
Yeah. There was a story that these games were going to be on a 7-second delay so they could bleep out those things because
I think Adam even said that when someone asked him. He's like, no, we might have to be on a 7-second. Like I think
maybe that's what it was.
Like in that time 100 talk that he did, maybe a 7-second delay because he obviously knows what they say when they're in the heat of competition.
So, somebody must have sneezed with the mute button and just forgot to press it.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like I'm wondering what you guys think about this because you have children. Let's say they're younger.
I don't care.
Well, no, because your kids are older now, so it doesn't matter. But the people who like to morally hand wring, who are like 7-year-olds, I don't want to hear them saying "F you" and all, because you know how players get when they get really hyped up and like, is that a problem? Do you guys think it's a problem? Or you're like, whatever, it's competition. Who cares?
I can tell you how I raise my kids, but Henry, why don't you speak about it first? You're not going to like.
I'm the wrong person to ask. I'm extremely pro cursing. I've been aggressively cursing around children, other people's children, and my children my whole life. I don't know.
You're my favorite person on the planet. I'll just say this: I was driving home. Our friend Tommy Shepard gave my son and I tickets for All-Star Weekend when it was in Orlando, and I don't care about the game itself. So we left We left after the dunk contest Saturday night. We got there Thursday and Friday, whatever. And on the drive home, it's a 2-hour drive home. I had to be on the phone. I'm working. And I'm dropping the F-bomb a couple of times. And Max, he might have been 8 or 9. And he's in the front seat with me at that point. So I know he wasn't 5 or 6. And I said, oh, my God, I keep saying fuck. I think I've said it 3 times. And without even looking, my son just held up 5. He's very deadpan funny that way. I believe I've always told my kids the same thing. Life isn't fair. I have proven that I can not curse. When I've done a million TV and radio hits.
Right.
I never once have been fined for anything. You don't have that ability yet, just like I don't let you drive. And you're not going to drive on a highway just because you get your driver's license. There's a process to life. And this is one of it.
But I've also a cursing license.
Right. Yeah. That's what happens for sure. You earn the right to do it. And now my kids will occasionally do it. And I'm so proud because they do it appropriately. They're not saying it about anyone. They're telling me a story. They're using words for effect. It goes back to what Jarod said about AOC. Language is an important tool. Hell, Dumbledore said that. It's our most important gift, language, right? And cursing is part of it. You don't tell Picasso we can't use a color purple or something like that. We're artists. It's part of our
some
artistry.
of these things, like, you do want to put them into language because the alternative is worse, right? Like, we raised our kids that basically you could read any book you want, any book at all. We're never going to ban a single book in this house, right? And because, like, if you're really curious about some crazy thing, like, the words version of it is better than the screen version of it, or even like the violent version of it, right? And so I feel like, it's kind of a win to get it. And, like, there are some emotions for which you need those words. Like, and actually, sorry, Jarod, I keep talking.
Yeah, no, go.
But really, last night there was a moment where my daughter is easily the one who's best at not cursing. Like, she can go whole days without cursing. I'm very impressed. But last night she strategically, I forget what it was, but she's 16 years old. She's standing there in the kitchen. Someone said something, and she turned and just said a little line where it had this risque word in it, and I just swelled with pride. Like, I was like, she just did, her timing was perfect. It was dry and deadpan. I was just like, oh.
Listen, to be fair and clear, I'm with you guys. It doesn't matter to me that they're cursing. Like, my only fear about it is, to your point, Henry, how it's going to be covered and the reaction by not us, but other media people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at these guys, and they're driving, and it's like, that's my thing. Because, I'm always concerned about the NBA because they're the black league. And I just don't want, like, oh, this is how it is with these people. I just don't want that.
Well, I respect that, like, like, I live close to New York City, right? And here in New Jersey, using those words like that is not a very powerful social statement, right? But in some places in America, it is, right? And you don't want to make that statement necessarily, right? So yeah, I respect that. Just as you need to be able to turn it off. Like, this is a globally broadcast thing. They probably need to not broadcast it. Right?
Probably, because again, when you're in the heat of competition, you can't turn it off. Dude just fouled you and the ref missed it. Like, you're gonna F-bomb him a couple times and be like, what the hell, dude? Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Wait, Judy, can we show there's a link in the file about that said something like, this will make you happy. It's relevant to this thing we're talking about right now, I think, actually, in a strange way. First thought watching this is boy, Chicago's different from Portland, huh?
Portland had some good. Did you hear the singing they did last night?
No, I didn't.
It was a really powerful video. A lot of masked white people singing in. I think it was "Hands Up, Don't Shoot." Really, it was really lovely, very peaceful and packed. Like how many people there was? A lot of people there.
So that video, and it seems like we have bad bandwidth, but like, if last night in Chicago, a whole bunch of people, and then some genius was like, everybody to the right and everybody to the left, and like, everybody, the whole crowd kind of moves together. And I thought to myself, like, oh, this is what it looks like when souls are healing, right? This is when you just feel alone and bereft and stressed out beyond belief. Like, this is how you knit those things back together. And that made me very happy to see. And then to Jarod's point about how, like, do we want this black league to have people cursing on the air? Because it'll let racists fill in the rest of the narrative with this, like almost 100% of the comments in response to that video that I just showed was basically like, oh, we had to close my church so these people can do this, or apparently Democrats or black people assemble in public, like they don't have to wear masks, and like, and everything's about like policy. And I was like, that made me think, A, I was just heartbroken. B, our guy, the epidemiologist from Emory, whose name, Zachary Binney, has said many times, basically you have a budget, right? You can have a certain amount of contact and you're going to spend it on, you can open schools or bars, not both, right? You can have a certain amount of contact. To me, I watched that video and I'm as paranoid as anyone about the mask wearing and the virus. And I would be slightly happier, I guess, if those people were all wearing masks. I'm not saying anything to anyone because this to me strikes me as like a very high priority moment to heal your soul, right? So I'm like, yeah, this is church, right?
But can I throw one other thing out there? Imagine, just to be offensive because we're talking about something offensive here. Yeah. If you pee in your bathtub and you pee in your pool and you pee in the ocean, okay? 3 very different experiences in terms of what's foul, right? They're outside. There isn't a finite number of molecules being shared in the small little room. I don't. But am I wrong to say they were outside, right? They were dancing outside. There's lots of molecules. So when I don't mind that Jarod was making fun of Tom Brady, I don't care that he plays the Buccaneers, and I'm not a fan anyway of the sport or him for that matter. But at least he was outside when he was walking. And I know New Yorkers, that I have a lot of friends from there. You guys are more sensitive, understandably so, because you guys were beaten to a pulp before you even knew what was coming. Well, most of us anyway. The rest of us aren't quite that hypochondriac as it relates to outdoors with masks. But I don't disagree with what you said, Henry, at all. And they're outside. So those people who are trashing, we know why they're doing it. Like we know really what their thoughts are.
Well, we haven't really had super spreader events.
Video, Henry, that is also what you saw there is unbridled black joy. And for a lot of people who are not black, that is a very uncomfortable and disheartening thing to see.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I'm like, guys, your life could be so much better. These could be your friends.
Exactly.
You could go dance and have a good time.
And have a great time.
Yeah.
You don't want to. Okay.
This black joy thing is like, whoa. I mean, it is like a beacon. Like that's a dog whistle.
It is.
People having fun. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it is the ability to connect and have that joy in the face of all of the insurmountable seeming obstacles that literally are in your life every single day, right? The great Ralph Wiley, who I don't know if you know him, Henry, but he wrote for Page 2, and
I don't know him personally. No.
But he wrote in one of his collection of essays, why black people tend to shout, right? And there is this visceral thing when there's this communion and togetherness that we feel when it's like, as your point, a moment of healing, and we're overcoming, and that it elicits that kind of emotion and fervor, and it's a wonderful thing. And guess what? You can be part of it too. Tap in, bring it in. You can be part of it too. Very inclusive, but that's not.
Well, there's all these rules about your body, right? Like you're not supposed to do certain things with your body, and suddenly it's like, no, use your body, man. Like let that thing do whatever it wants, right? Like
they really should teach dancing in schools. When I know they do in some place like square dance, whatever. I'm amazed that when I go to parties, Jewish people are like black people. We like to dance, as they say in the Fiddler on the Roof. You never know when the next pogrom is coming, which is a persecution kind of thing. You better enjoy it while you have it, right?
Yeah.
And so my daughter and I were talking the other day, and she said, I know one thing, no matter where do we go to, you and I'll be on that dance floor right away. I'm like, well, your mother normally has that reserved for me. He and I are normally the first ones on the floor and the last one's off. But yes, I will dance with you too.
Have you guys seen when Beyonce sneaks into the, I guess it's like some kind of after school dance practice at a high school in New York? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I did not see it.
Oh, it's old, but I'm sure Judy knows it. There are 100 girls practicing, and then you can see from the camera point of view that Beyonce and a couple of handlers or whatever sneak in the back, and then no one knows, and then then he kind of zooms out in front and just joins their
nice
dance. You can see the girls like melt with joy. Like it's just like, and they all just dance together because they know the dance and she knows the dance. And like that is, I mean, people have strong feelings about Beyonce, and like it's like just because of that video, I'm ride or die with Beyonce. That's the worst thing you can do.
Henry is a member of the Beehive, people. Look out.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Chicago, is it really bother you guys and Jarod in particular regarding the black on black violence, but more importantly, the idea that here it is right here. Oh, I've never.
Everybody stop talking.
Look at the look on their faces.
How are you not so excited? Like
that is amazing. It's amazing.
No, if you're ever feeling blue, just watch this thing on a loop, man. You're good. Like, yeah.
How did you find this, Judy? What's the name of it? Beyonce dancing with girls?
Probably.
Like, what do you search?
She surprised a dance troupe that was performing for Let's Move. It was a flash mob workout. Yeah. Also, just follow everything that she ever does ever, and you'll be fine.
She's dropping like a visual album, right?
Oh yes, we can't wait. National holiday.
When is it? Well, I can wait, but I'm all for you guys, Carrie. I have time for it, but I got scrimmages and games, and it's really ridiculous.
Oh, David has to work. It's terrible.
Wait, no, Coach, I cannot ask you questions about Beyonce while you're watching basketball.
I wouldn't know where to begin. I mean, I'm a fan. I love that first movie that she was in. That was amazing. But I like some of the songs. But basketball season again.
I don't want to be like the name dropper, but I've met Beyonce.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. Twice.
Oh, were you at that NBA Finals when Rachel and all them met her in the hallway?
No.
Okay.
Destiny's Child was like a fairly famous band, but not like this.
No, they were very
halftime at Sixers games, and I just stood in the little tunnel and we like small talked for had 8 minutes of standing there waiting for halftime, and then they ran out there and did their thing, and turns out one of them became pretty famous. And I also was at I'm totally just name dropping it. A lot of NBA writers will remember this night, but there was a Knicks game. I'm trying to remember. It was a little bit of a famous game. I don't forget what happened, but and Beyonce was sitting there with Jay-Z, and they were not invited.
Yeah.
Like it was not a thing. I really honestly think it might have been like their first date, and there's a certain way that celebrities come and go from half court or whatever, and it takes you in the hallway. Before the redo of the MSG, right? It would take you pretty much by I think the visitors' locker room. And so at the end, and so there's a lot of like, oh, that's weird. Like, these two celebrities are maybe on a date together, and then they like had to pass by these narrow, terrible MSG James Dolan hallways, and so we're all like Howard Beck, whatever. Like we're just like crammed in this hallway, and they have to sneak by, and someone's like, hey, like, are you guys on a date? And there were some cameras there and stuff, and it's a little bit of a crisis for them because they can't. Anything that happens on camera is now an issue, right?
Right.
And so they did what any reasonable people would do, which is they sprinted. Boom! And they're all like, oh my God, like I think they were awesome.
You broke a major story. Like you didn't even know. Like, and now look.
I know.
Kids, twins, the whole nine.
Have you, talking about people reacting to celebrities, it's one of my favorite stories that I saw it, not live. Have you seen when Jay-Z and Alicia Keys plays Empire State of Mind at the World Series first game? Have you ever watched that video?
No.
So
and I love that song.
You have to watch it. So here's why you have to watch it. They're playing it in the field, and the camera catches Derek Jeter. So these are the world's most famous baseball players, and Jeter is amongst the most famous of all time in baseball. And the camera catches him as he's looking to his teammates, and he's thinking, "Can you believe this shit? Like this is happening right now!" Like it was. I get chills thinking about. He's this, he has everything. And yet just that one moment of seeing these two incredible artists performing that amazing, one of my favorite songs, before a World Series game, it was just so great. It was like, it was joy. It was just that moment of pure joy, no matter what they did, winning or losing, that they don't forget that.
We are fortunate in that way, right? Like Henry being like media and where we are allowed to go in arenas, because wherever we're allowed to go, the connector point are always where the famous people have to cut through, right? Because that's the underbelly where the parking garage and all that stuff is.
Oh no.
And that was like, I mean, I had to like, it was like person's coming through. I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, hey, Bill, like, I mean, you see all sorts of people come through there, and it's actually kind of cool, and it's also interesting to see these famous NBA players like get awestruck and be like, "Oh, that's so and so," and it's like, "Yeah, but you're such."
Oh, you keep going. You keep muting, Jarod.
Am I?
Yeah.
We lost you for like 10 seconds twice.
The heck is going on here?
No.
I was just saying how awesome it is to see famous people geek out over seeing other famous people.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other thing that I've learned from hanging around in stadiums is being a mega celebrity means a lot of time in like a crappy windowless room in the bowels of some arena somewhere waiting for halftime or whatever. And you think it's like, oh, they're living this glamorous life. It's like, no, they just have to stick them somewhere private. Right. And like, peak of this was, I've told this story before, but we had a room to make some video in some finals building. And at some point, like Magic Johnson just shows up and he picks his head and he's just like, can I just sit here for a minute? And we're like, yeah. And he like just sits in the corner and just closes his eyes like, like, cause out there, he just he can't have a life out there. He just has to sit there. And for 5 minutes, he just sat there with his eyes closed and he's like, okay, thank you. And then he just took off.
And by the way, I've been around areas with him a bunch of times. You know, some people are just really good at being famous. Like Barkley's really good at that. Magic's good. Like every person they walk by and shake hands with and smile at, it's like, oh my God, he's talking to me. They are like really good at that. But
Magic Johnson's amazing at that.
I can see how that shit gets annoying as fuck.
It's work. It's work.
Like, enough. Like I don't want to talk to anybody. Leave me alone.
Who did I was at Lin-Manuel Miranda was saying basically like, hey, like someone was like, are you nice? And he's like, I hope so. He's like, but if I've been mean to you, it's certainly because I had to go to the bathroom.
Years ago, I was doing my training at IMG, which is about an hour and 20-minute drive. And every day I was listening to mostly Bruce Springsteen radio, the boss on Sirius, not exclusively, but often. And I'd never seen him perform before, even though he was like really big. We were all big fans when I was in college. And so I surprised my wife one time with a trip to Atlanta to go see him. And we decided a week before the concert hit. So I had to get online and I'm getting amazing tickets. They were not cheap, right next to the stage. And we sat with a very nice black gentleman who was his driver. Wherever they go, he drives around. He's very sweet. And there was a guy maybe 2 rows ahead of us, right on the side of the stage, having the greatest time. And I just thought, man, I bet he's just a groupie. He knows every song. But I couldn't see his face. So at one point I said to the driver, like, does this guy go to a lot of the events with you and sit by you? He's like, no. He said, don't you know who that is? I said, I haven't seen his face. No. It was Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. And then near the end, Bruce Springsteen announced, thank you for coming. And he totally changed. He got more stoic and no one was paying attention to him when he was having the greatest time. Just rocking out to the boss. They thanked him for coming. He got kind of quiet. It was sad.
Shouts to Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder. They are one of that's like Capitalist Machine, one of the great bands, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Really the band.
Not quite as good as the Capitalist Machine. I mean, they are, of course, undefeated and never.
How long have you been talking to them as if they were a band? Is that as a 9x90 creation?
It's kind of been happening over the course of the last few months. I'm like, yo, they're like a freaking stadium band, man. Because like I always think of stadium bands like U2, right? Who I've been lucky enough to see quite a number of times live, and like they're one of those bands that like they're incredible live and so good at like Bono knows how to do all that shit and you know all
He's
that. All right, and exactly. There's a thing about being a musician and like he knows how to be a rock star. Capitalist Machine, man, rock stars. They know how to get that shit done. I don't know how. They just hit after hit after hit. Woo!
You guys have exciting news for our show.
Ooh.
On Monday, Catherine Belton.
Oh wow!
So here's what I know about this book. All right, so
show just took a very dark turn.
Capitalist Machine.
Hey,
exactly.
Hits, hits, baby.
So I came into we've met Oliver Bullock on this show, right? And he was based in Moscow for a long time. He is part of a sort of web of very brilliant people who know a lot about how Russia works. And I follow a lot of them on Twitter, or some of them are his friends. And I noticed there were a lot of books about Vladimir Putin, and they come out every week, and mostly these people say nothing or yawn. But this one, everybody's like, ooh, Catherine Belton, like that's a big stinking deal.
Whoa.
And then you get to there's like, juicy in there. That book, there's stuff going on in there. We talked yesterday for a while.
That book, I cannot finish that by Monday, but I'm gonna like skim.
No, don't worry. It's only 600 and
Henry, I read slow.
pages.
Wait, what's it? You told me about it, but what's it called again, Henry?
Putin's. Well, thank you for asking, David.
Putin's People. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it at the library?
Well, is your library?
How long has it been out?
It's out like last week.
Oh, so it may not be at the library yet.
It may not be in the library yet.
Coach, you wanted to see Devin reads slow too. Shouts to Devin. You talked about Chicago. What were you were going to ask?
Knowing that they're getting the guns for everywhere else. It reminds me of the whole virus issue where they're saying, well, if you're in one county, you can open up whatever you want. There's no infections there. People are driving back and forth around the counties. Like, that's how this works. So they can't buy guns in Chicago. They drive across borders, north, south, east, and west. It's got to drive you crazy. It drives me crazy.
I mean, like,
there's another meme right there.
That's what I have to say. Like, it's like the level of ignorance and stupidity, and then this clown sending in like literally unidentifiable militia to do Lord knows what to these people. Like, this is.
They want a war. Let's make sure we're clear on that.
Yes.
It's the only chance in their minds.
Yes. So I'm gonna do that annoying thing where I'm like, ask a black person, but come on, like, okay, BLM protests all across America, and they're on they largely wrapped up, not in the news, except in the whitest city in America, where there are mostly white people protesting. like what?
Portland.
Like what happened, Portland? Come on, like
Portland likes sticking their finger at everybody, right? They really do. I've never been there, but I heard it's lovely.
Sometimes we get tired, Henry, and somebody else has got to be out there shouting. I mean, we've only been shouting for like 500 years. Like, how about you guys do it for a couple hours?
I'm just a little, okay, that's good. I'm glad you take it out, but I'm a little bit like, I mean, I grew up like where this is happening in Portland, this is where I would go a million every week of my childhood, right? I've been right in those streets. But like, oh my gosh, like, white people took over the Black Lives Matter protest and turned it into a national disgrace. like what the hell?
I don't know if you saw the picture or the video of the naked woman in Portland, and the LA Times had like the woman behind the naked picture, and it's just like, oh God, like she's like doing ballet poses and shit. And
but aren't there moms aren't they building like a wall of moms?
Yep.
That's cool.
Pretty cool.
I just, but
don't fuck with moms.
A great place to segue before we wrap.
Yeah.
We're talking about coalitions and alliance and the need for, look, if we want to make this world better, it's not just about us, black people doing the work, right?
Right.
It's about white people too, right? Because if we want a better world, we need your help, because guess what? People in power listen to y'all. They don't listen to us. That's number one.
They call me all the
time. So sadly, someone recently passed away, and he is tangentially connected to us because he was a member of the Count the Dings family, which of course is Jade and Ben and Waz and all those good folks over there. Michael Brooks, he's 36 years old. He died in his bathroom in his apartment in Brooklyn. His girlfriend, who happens to be Waz's cousin, identified that she was like, what's called the ambulance and the whole nine. He had a pulmonary embolism in his throat. And it's just like one of those things that, like, I mean, there's nothing you can do. Like, you're done at that point. And it makes us all realize that while we got coronavirus and everything going on, it can be taken away from you literally in a second, and it's done. So I know Coach does this. I know Henry does this. Hug the people that you're with. Tell them you love them all the time, because you don't know when you're going to ever get that chance to do it again. You take it for granted. And Michael was someone who was really about bringing all the people together. I didn't know him personally. I got familiar with his work through Waz. And I reached out to Waz today when it happened. And I mean, Woke Bros and the Michael Brooks Show and all this stuff. I mean, Michael is one of the more brilliant guys that I've ever been able to listen to about politics, economics. And I mean, he had the former president of Brazil comment about his death, about what a loss this is. I mean, this is a guy who was about connecting people in the world and understanding. I joke about the capitalist machine, but like he he knows the guy and understands how this band's intricacies works, right? And what a danger it is to the world when we let it grow unfettered as it has. And he was all about working class people, the poor, rights, and this idea of everyone in the world deserves a level of dignity in how they live.
Yes.
Right? It shouldn't be reserved for the oligarchs, right? And like the one percenters. Like everyone should have a certain level of decency in how they live. And he was a big proponent of educating people, and not through beating you over the head, but bringing you in and say, okay, well, why do you have that point of view? Let's talk about it. So brilliant guy. Rest in peace to Michael Brooks. Rest in power, I should say. Condolences to his family, and Count the Dings family really lost a good one. So that's that.
Thanks for that, Jarod.
That's very sad. Thank you, Jarod. And we're out of time. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, David. Have a great weekend, everybody.